Mackenzie Dern is looking to take the leap into major stardom here in a big main event spot, but it won't be an easy test. Marina Rodriguez is absolutely no joke. UFC Vegas 39. Let's get into it.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? Great to be back talking some fight action here. UFC Vegas 39. We've got a little card that the UFC put together for us. We're going to get into it. Something I'm going to start doing going into each fight card. I want to give a little pre-rating of what I think of the card. Because, typically I kind of say, I think this is a strong card or a weak card, but I think I'm going to do a letter grading. I think it'll give you guys kind of an idea of how I'm feeling about the card going into it. And, in this fight card, I'm going to give it a D+ going into it. But again, you guys know the routine. When it comes to the fight game, first and foremost, we're excited about the fights regardless, and I'm excited to talk about each and every one of these fights. But also, when it comes to the fight game, there's no telling how these fights are going to deliver from an entertainment standpoint. But I'm talking about just as far as the names go and stylistic matchups and whatnot. I'll rate this fight card a D+. It very, very well may be an exciting fight card, and we might see some of the most flashiest knockouts and wild fights that we've ever seen. But as far as the names go, not a lot of big names. You got fighters trying to make a name for themselves in the game. And it's not every day that you see a women's strawweight main event fight, especially not even for the belt. But Mackenzie Dern, her name does carry a lot of weight, and I understand why she's getting this spot here. But nevertheless, I am excited for this fight card. Now, let's not forget also, we have a big heavyweight championship fight going down on the boxing side of things. The trilogy. I'm not going to talk about it too much here. I'll do an exclusive video on this. I think you guys kind of catch an idea of who I'm pulling for in this fight, or who I think is really running things on the boxing side. Tyson Fury, in my opinion, easily won the first time around, dominated the second time. It's kind of interesting that we have a trilogy fight going down between these guys, but we do. That's what boxing has to offer right now, and I'm excited for it. So I will have an exclusive video coming out about the Wilder versus Fury fight, so keep that in mind. Now, before we get into UFC Vegas 39, if you guys could, please hit that like button on this video. Please subscribe. I'm only like dozens of subscribers away from hitting that 4,000 mark. It means a lot to me over here. I want to start edging towards that 5,000 mark. So please, if you guys could, do that right now for me. And then you guys know the routine. Before we even get into UFC Vegas 39, we're going to take a look back at how this previous weekend went for me. It was another profitable weekend. We had some things play out kind of awkwardly, and it could have been a much better weekend, but at the end of the day, you can't argue, and it was a profitable weekend. I'll take that. Should have been a little bit better, and we're going to get into why. I think some of you guys already know who follow me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. Go shoot me a follow over there. And with no further ado, we're going to jump back into UFC Vegas 38. Let's go over there. So we had this big main event fight that was supposed to be just nonstop action between Santos and Walker. Definitely did not deliver. We'll work our way up to that fight there in a second. I want to talk about the plays we targeted. We'll start at the bottom of the card. Alejandro Perez looked great. Got the modified armbar. Pulled off the armbar submission over Eduardo. We talked about how he would have an edge as far as the grappling goes and whatnot. How about Stephanie Egger getting the finish there in the second round, taking out Shayna Young. Good to see a young. Well, I really shouldn't say young, but as far as her MMA experience goes, she's young in the MMA side of things, not necessarily as far as her age goes. But a green fighter getting her wheels under her, getting them rolling there. We'll see what she could do next. A judokian black belt and a girl that's been working on her striking. We'll see what she has to offer moving forward. How about Douglas Silva de Andrade gets the knockout over Gaetano Perello? We talked about how he would have a significant edge as far as the grappling goes, but he showed us that his striking still is no joke as well. Jamie Malarkey gets the knockout. Remember this one? We talked about this one. I was really on the fence about this fight. I ended up edging Devontae Smith. And again, no action all the way up to these fights, but just talking about from a pure pick standpoint. We talked about how dangerous Malarkey is, and I should have stuck with that pick. But Devontae Smith is a very talented kid as well, and but I knew Malarkey was very, very live in this fight, and Malarkey looked amazing. He just brutalized Devontae Smith. If you guys saw that finish, just bombarded him with shots and got the finish there. Carol Rosa takes care of Betch Correia, and now Betch has retired from the sport of MMA. Shout out to Betch as she goes to the next part of her life, or however you want to say that, her post MMA career, and we'll see what she has to offer if we'll ever see her around the game or whatnot. Her name, she was around for a while. You got to give her respect, I guess. She was a tough cookie. Now we get to the first play of the night. Casey O'Neill takes out Antonina Shevchenko. This was a play that I was all over. You guys should have been on this play as well. I don't know if you guys were hitting this with me. Grabbed it at minus 210. 4.5 unit play. Antonina Shevchenko has showed that she has major holes in her grappling, and I know that Casey O'Neill is a very, very tough girl that could actually hold her own on the feet, and she had the grappling edge there. I was all over this play. Hopefully you guys all jumped on that, man, because the line was not that bad at all, and it played out exactly like we thought it would. Antonina Shevchenko broke down as far as the grappling went, and she ended up getting finished there in the second round. Now we go right into the second play of the event for me. This was a 4-unit play here on Joe Selecki, and he ends up losing this fight. Took the L here. I'm not going to sit here and bicker. You guys can comment below. Did you have Gordon winning the fight or Selecki? I got a lot of messages from people saying that they thought Selecki should have won that fight. It was very close. I'm not going to argue about it. Selecki looked so dominant in that first round. It was a shame that he couldn't take one of those last 2 rounds. But it was what it was, and as Max Holloway says, it is what it is. And we moved on with the fight card because that's all we could have did. Alexander Hernandez got a nasty knockout over Mike Breeden after Breeden looked good for the first couple seconds there, but he broke down there. Don't understand why he was reaching to put his mouthpiece back in his mouth as he's getting hit with shots against the cage. Forget about your mouthpiece. Just take those shots to your teeth. If you lose a couple teeth, it is what it is, but you got to tuck your chin and start slinging some hooks in there. That was a little bit of a mental error by Breeden there, but a lot easier said as I'm sitting here behind my computer when this guy's, in the line of fire, getting hands thrown at him by a beast in Alexander Hernandez. So it is what it is there too. Now, no action on these fights that we're talking about here, but Krzysztof Jotko takes out Misha Cirkunov. I picked Cirkunov to win the fight. Another fight that was very close, split decision. The right decision was made. Jotko got that takedown at the last second of the third round, and that solidified the fight. Could have went either way. It's funny because the next fight, the same exact thing happened here too. Cowboy Oliveira, in my opinion, he should have won this fight. Not saying that the judges made the wrong call. What I'm saying is that he left this fight on the table. He was the better striker. When he got on top of Price, man, he was doing a lot more work there. He just got taken down by Price in the first round and was just held down. And then in the third round, he kind of gassed out a little bit at the very end, and he almost had his own takedown. He slipped up against the cage there, and if he didn't get taken down there, he would have took that round and would have won the fight. Very, very close fight, a unanimous decision. But again, these were very, very close rounds. But Price deserved to win that fight. But I think if they fought 10 times, I say Oliveira takes that fight 8 times out of 10. Some of you might get annoyed that I say that, but I thought Oliveira looked way, way faster on the feet. He needs to work on his cardio a little bit, but he's always a tough dude in there. Now we got 2 more plays here. Kyle Daukaus, man. Where do I start? You guys know I already went on a rant over on my Instagram. Kyle Daukaus was an official play of mine. Obviously, it was a no contest, so it was a stalemate. Kyle Daukaus was on his way to winning this fight, in my opinion. He was executing the game plan perfectly, putting Holland against the cage. Yeah, he didn't get the takedown right away, but you knew that those takedowns were going to start to come. If you guys know what you're watching, if you saw Holland in those fights against Brunson and Vettori, the takedowns came so much easier as the fights progressed. And Dawkins is relentless, and he's an excellent grappler. And do I need to go on about that stupid headbutt? I mean, how do you let the fight go on for as long as it did after the headbutt, and then you call it a no contest? I call it complete BS on that, because you know what? Not a lot of people talked about this, but do you know that if Kevin Holland, which he did gain his wits a little bit after that happened, if he would have reversed Dawkins, pulled off any type of finishing move, or, ended up getting his wits and started to look amazing, he would have actually had some substance. If he would have got a finish, he would have actually had a finish victory right now. We would have been looking at a Kevin Holland victory. So meanwhile, they're fighting for all that time where the fight could only benefit one fighter. I call complete BS on that. The fight had to have been stopped immediately. I know some of you guys say, oh, but you don't want to stop it right then, because if it wasn't a headbutt, you don't want to stop the momentum that Dawkins is working with. No, you know what? There's more of an impact when the guy's doing all that damage and then it's all for nothing because you didn't pause it right at that moment, and then he gets a beautiful rear naked choke finish and then it doesn't even count. I can go on and on about this, but Kyle Dawkins was the superior fighter. And, I was on Instagram chirping because I had so many people talking about I was crazy for picking Dawkins. It was suspect. I know what I'm talking about, man. I put a lot of time into what I do, man. The value was on Dawkins all day there. Kevin Holland hasn't done anything to show me that he can stuff takedowns for 15 minutes against a guy like Dawkins. And Dawkins actually landed the more significant shots on the feet for the limited time that fight lasted before the headbutt. The biggest shot of the fight was by Dawkins, a nice right. That was Dawkins' fight. And you'll see when they do the rematch, Dawkins will be the favorite. Dawkins will be like a minus 150 favorite. Mark my words, he'll be right around that range. People will know now. And I'm a little annoyed with that because I had a big ticket there at great odds, grabbed them at plus 150 before the fight. But I count that as a W, man. I mean, some of you guys were annoyed I said that, but I say it jokingly, but I count it as a W because that was solid work that I put in on the tape, and I like to pat myself in the back in that sense like that. It just makes me feel better when I'm putting in all this time on the tape. I like to at least get something from it, but hopefully you guys don't take it too serious. I know some of you guys take your guys' selves very seriously. I seen you guys in the comment section getting all worked up. Again, I like to say I'm a fan of Kevin Holland's, and I kind of relate to him in a lot more ways than a lot of these other fighters, because I'm a guy that likes to talk a lot of crap. And if I was a fighter, I'd probably be a little bit like Holland. Maybe not exactly, but I'd be a little bit more like him than a lot of these other guys. So nothing but respect to Holland. I love the way he handled the loss. That guy is a class act, and I'm a fan of everything he's about. All right. That takes us to the main event. It wasn't the most exciting fight. You guys know I was on Thiago Santos here. Had a solid play on him. And what do we got? We had pull it up real quick for you guys. And if you guys ever want to check my bet write-ups, they're all on Instagram. It was a 4-unit play. And I felt very comfortable about this fight. I hope all you guys were on it. I saw a little bit of action coming in on Walker right before the fight, so I even threw a little bit more money on it. And I just thought that Santos was going to be quicker to the punch and just the overall better fighter. I thought even he'd mix in some more takedowns, but it was a straight stand-up fight. But easy money. I don't think either of these guys' stock really goes anywhere from there. I don't think Dana White was probably too pleased from what he saw there. But nevertheless, Thiago Santos gets another W, and you can't deny that he's one of the best light heavyweight fighters in the world, so he'll work his way into a big fight regardless. So that's going to wrap up UFC Vegas 38. We end up hitting 2 of our 3 plays after the Dawkins fight was a no contest. I still want to give myself some credit for that. Really, I feel like it should have been a 3 for 4, and I really felt like it should have almost been a 4 for 4. But it is what it is. Selecki, he didn't get his arm raised, but it was a close fight. And we move on, and we're gonna look to string off another profitable night. That's what we do here. And with no further ado, UFC Vegas 39. Let's jump over to that. So we got 11 fights taking place. Of course, taking place over in Las Vegas at the UFC Apex Center. When you see that UFC Vegas and then a number, then that's what's going on. It's obviously in Vegas, and it's taking place at the Apex Center with a limited amount of people there. Remember, these fights aren't being watched by a large amount of people. Some friends and family of specific fighters are able to go. And the first fight of the card is Charlie Ontiveros versus Steve Garcia. This guy Charlie, man, if you guys remember, this guy Charlie looked absolutely horrible against Kevin Holland. Took that fight on short notice. A lot of people were saying it was messed up that the UFC even matched him up with a guy like Holland. Now let's remember, Kevin Holland's a very talented fighter as far as the striking goes, and he has some jiu-jitsu skills, but he slammed Charlie down and finished him with a slam. That's not a good look, especially when you know that the level of wrestling that Kevin Holland has. But Holland just completely outclassed him in there. And this guy Charlie is suspect, man. Again, I know some of you guys get upset. You guys see me here behind the computer. You know, I got my limited amount of MMA training that I've done through my years, my life. Okay, I'm not comparing myself to the level of these pro fighters that are fighting in the octagon. But my job when I assess these guys is to compare them to one another. Okay, so when I watch Charlie Ontiveros and I see fights where I see him kind of just get taken down even before the UFC in another fight, and you know he's looking at the referee just tapping out. Look, I guess his ribs got hurt. It looked suspect, man. First off, the fact that he was taken down so easily looked suspect, but then the way that he looked at the referee and just quit in that fight, it's suspect. Then you got a guy in Steve Garcia that's extremely tough, extremely durable. He's been in there with solid competition. If you don't know, he's 11-4 as a professional. He's trained with Jackson Wink and all that. You take a look at his losses. First off, defeated Sean Bunch, aka fighter. Split decision loss to Ricky Tercios, the Ultimate Fighter winner from the previous season. Amazing fighter. Ronnie Lawrence has a victory over him, a very tough customer. Ronnie's a UFC fighter. He lost to Joe Warren, Alan Cruz, very talented fighters. And then he lost to Luis Pena. Now, Luis Pena was able to handle him in that fight, but Pena is a talented fighter. And, he was able to go to the distance there, but Pena did kind of flash on him on the mat. I don't really expect to see Ontiveros doing anything like that. I expect Garcia to be able to hold his own on the feet, hold his own on the mat. I think that he's a tougher fighter. He's coming in with a little bit of a height disadvantage and a little bit of a reach disadvantage. I'm not even worried about that at all. I know that's a little bit reminiscent to the Pena fight, but Pena is on a whole different level than Ontiveros, in my opinion. And I don't know what's going on with Violent Bob Ross. I think that, I don't want to talk about it too much, I guess. I don't know, but it looked like he was wrongfully charged or whatnot. So he might be fighting in the octagon sooner than later. But I got Steve Garcia to win this fight. I think that he's the meaner. You got the nickname the Mean Machine. He's the meaner, nastier, tougher fighter, and he has the skills to shine on Charlie as well. So maybe he even gets a finish in this fight. Had a nice finish against Desmond Torres, and finished 3 fights in a row before his previous loss there, or his last fight. I'll take Steve Garcia all day. The line minus 320. 335, as high as 335. I mean, you don't typically see that number next to Steve Garcia. You wouldn't expect to see that kind of number there, but that's really what Charlie is bringing to the table. And I know Charlie has some finishes himself, but again, against lower competition, and I'm not impressed with what I see as a whole. So you might see Charlie looking a little something like this, but maybe I'm being tough on him. But I like Steve Garcia to win the fight. And line a little bit high there, so you might have to work it into a parlay, or you just leave it alone, or you look for a prop finish or something like that. All right, going into the next fight, talked about the main event being a strawweight fight. Well, you got 2 other strawweight fighters throwing down here. Lupita Godinez taking on Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes has had a tough UFC stint. Since joining the UFC, she got finished by Tisha Torres, got manhandled in that fight. And she lost her last fight to Luma Lekbunmi, a very talented fighter as well. And before that, has some experience over on the LFA scene. Sam Hughes, a tough, strong girl. But does she have the skills to compete with these women in the UFC? Let me tell you what, Lupita Godinez is a girl that I was actually decently impressed with before she made her debut in the UFC. Been following her over on the LFA scene as well. She was the former LFA champion. She defeated Vanessa Demopoulos in an absolute war. I think she has good striking. And, she has some decent ability, man. I think that she should definitely be hanging around in the UFC for some time to come. Again, that fight was very, very bloody with Vanessa. I'm not sure if this was the fight here, but that was an absolute war. So she has a very, very large heart, man. When she goes in there, she's willing to put it all on the line. She did have a tough fight, though, in her last fight, man. Her last fight, She lost to a crafty veteran in Jessica Penne. Jessica was coming off a long layoff. Godinez was a pretty hefty favorite going into that fight, and Penne was able to keep the fight a close one and give herself a shot for the judges to give it to her, and that's what the judges did. It was a close fight. It was a split decision. Personally, I did think that Godinez won that fight. I think that most of you guys agreed with me. If I remember correctly, social media was a little bit on that fight there. A lot of people thought that Lupita Godinez won that fight. So you could look at that fight however you want to look at it. Still a loss, and she shouldn't have never let that fight play out as closely as she did. Penne had some moments with her grappling and whatnot. So, there might be a little bit of a hole there. And Godinez is grappling at times. Even though I don't think the hole's that big. I think she has some of that too. But Penne was able to stifle her a little bit. Sam Hughes, just a tough overall fighter. She could do a little bit of it all. And I'm not really sure if she's on Lupi's level right here. We're going to see. I'm definitely edging Lupi to win the fight. I think that Lupi is the better fighter here. I'm going to take Lupita Godinez to win the fight. And Lupi will be a little undersized, but that's nothing new to her. She tends to be undersized in a good amount of her fights. She's only 5'2", the 61-inch reach, but she's decently compact. She's a tough little strong girl there. I got to go with Lupita. We take a look at the live line. Lupita's right around that minus 215 to 225 range with a little bit of action coming in on her, which is to be expected. And again, the former LFA champion, she's as hungry as ever right now after the judges kind of, gave her the bad end of the stick there. I got Godinez to win the fight. All right, we got Boston Strong Charles Rosa taking on Damon Jackson. If you guys remember, Charles Rosa used to be the Boston Strangler, but the UFC wanted him to get rid of that nickname. Understandably why. Charles Rosa, I've talked about it before. I BS'd with him one time. I saw him on a St. Patrick's Day over here in South Florida. Very, very cool guy. He's some kind of chef. He was telling me a little bit about his cooking and whatnot, or a little bit about what he does over there. He worked at some restaurant at the time. I'm sure he doesn't even work there anymore. Obviously, he's been pretty solidified as a solid UFC fighter. But if you look at his last 5 fights, it's kind of fitting of what he's been doing. Win, loss, win, loss, win. And he was able to take out Justin James in that last fight. But before that, he did have a tough go-around with Derek Minner. Boston Strong, he's a decent grappler. He has some solid submission skills in his arsenal. His striking is coming around. He's been trying to implement that kind of karate style. Lighten his feet. He's throwing the lead kicks. He has good boxing. He has decent heat on his hands. Decent power there. He's a solid fighter. As far as him, in my opinion, really ever being on that next kind of level, I never really believed that he was the guy to do that. But you got to love where he's training. You guys know how high I am. Putting in work with the guy like Henry Hooft, your striking is going to get better and better and better. Sanford MMA is absolutely no joke, so I expect to see a better version of Charles Rosa every time he goes in there. He's 35 years old, so maybe don't expect to see too many new tricks, but this is a tough fight for him. Damon Jackson, in my opinion, is a very talented fighter. We saw him battling over on the PFL scene there for a while. He's been battling over in the LFA, the PFL scene. He's fought some high-level competition over there as well. And, he bursted on the scene over in the UFC, submitting Mirsad Bektic, a guy that is who was a very talented fighter. He's since retired. And I do believe, got to pull this up real quick for all you Mirsad Bektic fans. Did he retire, Mirsad? Yeah, he did. Yeah. So he retired Mirsad Bektic, which is that's a statement, man. Mirsad Bektic was a guy that had so much promise at one point in time, and Damon Jackson just showed that he has excellent grappling. He weathered the storm in the first round, and then he started to take that fight over. Damon Jackson's a guy that has great cardio, and I like his team over there at Fortis MMA. And let me see real quick. So as far as they square off, as they stand off physically, we got a 4-inch reach advantage for Jackson, which I do like. He's a little bit of the taller guy. He's a little bit of the more naturally larger guy here. The leech excellent grappling, tough striker. Had a tough outing in his last fight, but look at the guy that he lost to, man. Ilya Topuria. This guy looks like he's destined to hold gold one day. So take it easy on him there. I do like Damon Jackson to win this fight. I think that this is a close fight, though. I think that Charles Rosa is a tough outing for anybody. If things are clicking for him on that day, he can give you a run for your money. But I think that Damon Jackson just shows to be a little bit more of a talented guy, in my opinion. And right now, Jackson's right around that minus 194 range to 180, creeping up on that 2-1 favorite status, which it might be a little bit high. Maybe if you're looking for some value, if you want to go after Rosa, I still think that Jackson is the superior fighter here overall, and that's why I'm taking Jackson to win that fight. And you know, I know that he's very good friends with Jared Gordon, who just had a big victory. We talked about that split decision fight there, but I know they are good friends, so I'm sure they were getting in a lot of work together. Actually, I know they were. And then now we got some big heavyweights to talk about, man. Alexander Romanov taking on Jared Vanderaa. We talked about the big heavyweights throwing down on the boxing side. Well, this is our big heavyweights that are throwing down this upcoming weekend. We got this guy Romanov, who has been very, very promising. But we got to talk about his last fight, man. If you guys remember his last fight, he should have lost that fight. He fought Juan Espino, who's a very, very talented wrestler, the Spaniard. If you guys remember what happened, there was some type of a legal shot thrown or whatnot. I think it was it to the groin or was like a headbutt or whatnot, but it continuously happened. The fight, he couldn't continue. I think it was an eye poke actually or something. The fight would not be able to continue, and therefore they had to go to the judges' scorecards. Meanwhile, the third round had just started. That's you know how that's that little new thing that they do. They go to the judges' scorecards if it surpasses the second round, I believe. So here's the thing, though. Romanov won the first round, but you saw that he gassed out in the second round, and he lost all fuel that he had. You could tell he was definitely on his way to losing that fight. Didn't even look good in the first couple seconds of the third round, but for some reason, the judges gave him that third round. Again, there was only seconds of actual action. He should have probably lost that fight. And, Espino was very, very upset about the way that things played out there. So a little bit of a red flag as far as Romanov's cardio goes, because he did kind of gas out in that fight. Here's the X factor, though. Again, Juan Espino is very, very talented. I'm telling you guys now. I believe he won the Ultimate Fighter a while back. He's a decorated wrestler. He's been putting in work with some of the best fighters on planet Earth. I think he's over at American Top Team. So understand that fight was really against two of the best heavyweight fighters clashing there. I don't think that Jared Vanderaa is on the level of either of those guys. Vanderaa coming off a victory over Justin Tafa, another guy that's not on the level of those guys in my opinion. Tough guy, but just a little bit of a lower level fighter. Lost to Sergey Spivak in his UFC debut after coming off DWCS. Sergey Spivak is a guy, a decently talented guy, but I think that Romanov is a better version of him. That's why I'm taking Romanov to win this fight. I think that Romanov does the gorilla King Kong ground and pound on Vanderaa. He gets those takedowns, and I think that he could hurt Vanderaa in a big way. If Sergey Spivak could do something like that, I don't see no reason why Romanov can't implement that same type of game plan. And Vanderaa is a guy that got the contract beating a guy in Harry Hunsucker. Harry looked undersized in that fight. Jared kind of bullied him in there. This is going to be kind of what took place in that fight. Is going to be kind of the situation here, but it's going to be the opposite now. Now he's going to be being bullied by the bigger guy, which is kind of interesting, Romanov is an absolute bowling ball of a man, just a giant bowling ball, a boulder. We'll say a boulder. He's a giant boulder rolling down the side of a mountain. And if you're in his way, he's going to crush you. This guy's legit. Again, though, the one X factor, if he ever does have a flaw in his game moving forward, he needs to sharpen up that cardio. And we'll see if Vanderaa can push him to that limit in the third round and maybe try to break him there. But I definitely side with Romanov here. And Romanov right now is right around a minus 500 favorite. So a hefty favorite here. 5-1 favorite. It's understandable. We got a middleweight clash of Loreno Staropoli taking on Jamie Pickett. Staropoli, at one point in time, was a very, highly touted prospect coming out of Argentina. At the time, he took out Thiago Alves. I believe that might have been Alves' last fight in the octagon. His record was looking a lot better then. Since then, he strung off 3 losses in a row against Muslim Salikov, Tim Means, and then he just lost to Roman Dolj. So 3 tough fighters, but it is what it is. This is the UFC. You're going to be squaring off with guys like that. So I think that Staropoli kind of showed his colors there. He's still a talented fighter, but he's not the fighter that we thought he could have possibly been, that he had the potential to be. He's a quick striker, a quick athletic striker, trying to work on his overall game. Jamie Pickett, a well-rounded fighter, kind of favors his striking more so, I do believe. Jamie finally got that big victory on Dana White's Contender Series and got the contract. It wasn't his first rodeo on the show. Lost to Punalehi Seriano. Went back, won a fight, got another shot against Jonathan Patti. And you know what? I think that might have been Pickett's 3rd fight on Dana White's Contender Series. Am I right on that? Yeah, he also got arm triangle choked by Charles Byrd, a guy that I don't even believe is fighting in the octagon anymore. So it took him 3 chances to get that victory, but he did. He did go out there and he looked very good in that fight. He looked to be the best version of himself, which is saying a lot. When a guy goes back to the drawing board and does that, you got to pay respect to him. So since that victory, he squared off with Tafon and Chukwi and Jordan Wright, and he lost both of those fights. The Jordan Wright fight, if you guys remember, the Beverly Hills Ninja, that was one of the most exciting fights I've seen in a long time. I was at a party, and if you guys remember, those guys just went straight at it. And it was funny because the clash in styles too. You got, Jordan Wright, he's the Beverly Hills Ninja, if you guys catch my drift, man. He's a funny dude. He's like the Karate Kid type of guy. And then you got Jamie Pickett, the Night Wolf, who's just going in there to take your head off. But Jamie had his head taken off that day. Excellent fight, though. Pickett is going to have a giant reach here, an 8.5-inch reach advantage. Has a very, very long frame for the division. And the height is really not that much of a difference as far as the height goes. I mean, that just shows you how freakishly long Pickett's arms are. This is going to be a good fight here, man. I think that this fight will play out a little bit closer maybe than the line says. But at the end of the day, I think that Staropoli is the more talented striker. And if Jordan Wright was able to land those shots and hurt Pickett in the way that he did, we saw him get hurt on Dana White's Contender Series at times. I don't see any reason why Staropoli can't dig deep and finally get a victory inside the octagon here. I take Staropoli to win this fight. Be a little bit wary of that line, though. I don't know if that's a line. I don't know if the minus 225 line is one you want to target. You at least get it at a decent line if you're going to take him there, in my opinion. But I'm going to take Staropoli to win that fight. And, if he doesn't get the victory here, it's sayonara, adios amigos to the Argentinian fighter. So this is a big, big fight for him. And you know what? We talk about it being his last fight if he loses. That'd be 3 in a row for Jamie Pickett as well. I think that whoever loses this fight will be hitting the road. So both these guys going to be very, very motivated going into this fight here. All right, we got a bantamweight matchup of Chris Gutierrez, who's taking on Felipe Collares. Felipe coming off a nice victory over Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders, a talented fighter, but just a guy that could really never put it together consistently. Don't want to take anything away from Felipe, but you gotta wonder, sometimes what the deal with Sanders even is with that. What's the deal with that guy? But Collares is a talented striker. If you mess around with him, he can hurt you on the feet. Very, very durable. He's willing to engage in a brawl. It's not a guy you're going to really get out early unless you hit him with a really flush shot. I mean, he'll be in there battling with you. Had a loss against Montel Jackson before that. You guys know Montel is a very talented fighter. Before that, takes out Domingo Pilarte. And then before that, loses to Geraldo de Freitas. And an excellent, excellent fight. We talk about his heart, man. You run the tape back on that Geraldo fight. They went at it. Chris Gutierrez has some of the best leg kicks in the game right now. Throws beautiful calf kicks. He'll shut your leg out. Really, really, I'm really high on this guy, Gutierrez. I think he's a very talented fighter. You take a look at even the losses that he's had. I mean, he lost to Raoni Barcelos. I'm extremely high on him. And then he lost to Timur Valiyev and actually beat him the first time around as well. Valiyev is a very, very skilled fighter, in the UFC right now, and also had a loss to Jared Sanders there, a reputable fighter. Take nothing away from Gutierrez. He's the real deal. Coming off a nice win over Andre Ewell, looked good in that fight, looked sharp. He's a guy that's just very, very crisp with his striking and is very quick to his punch and his kicks. He's usually a beat ahead of everyone he's in there with. And I think he's going to be a beat ahead of Felipe here. I think that Gutierrez's striking will be a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker. Felipe is going to try to turn this fight into a dog fight. But at the end of the day, man, El Guapo is the more talented fighter. So I'm going to side with him here, man. I think that he's the more talented fighter. Training at a Factory X. Always getting in solid work over there. And again, he's been in there with very, very skilled opponents. So, that's always a great thing to have in your arsenal as well. He's been locked in there with excellent talent. Felipe Coleres is nothing that he hasn't seen. And El Guapo. I got to take El Guapo to win this fight. And where is it? Yeah, I got El Guapo here. But again, just keep in mind that Coleres is a tough fighter. He's going to try to turn this into a dog fight. He's only 27 years old. I feel pretty convinced that we have not seen the best of Coleres. You never know what kind of Felipe is going to show up there. He's about a plus 210 underdog. It's going to have a 2.5-inch reach, which is not anything new for Gutierrez as well. He's been in there with guys that usually have a little bit of a longer frame than him. It's fine. I think Gutierrez chops the legs down, works his hands as well, hits him with some crisp shots, and will just be the sharper fighter. Like I said, I got Chris Gutierrez to win that fight. All right, boys, we're cruising, man. We're cruising. We're actually entering the main card right now. You guys now. And remember, man, if any of you guys are looking to work with me with my official plays, feel free, man, to reach out. My email's below. It's scrolling on the bottom. MMAfortuneteller@gmail.com. My Instagram is MMAfortuneteller_. My Twitter is the MMA Teller. Shoot me a message. I'll send over my pricing to you guys. This is going to be a big fight card. I'm coming off a profitable event this past weekend. This is the fight card. Last weekend, I liked the spots that we had. I felt like we should have been 4 for 4. This is the fight card here. I'm telling you guys, there's specific spots. Make sure you guys do not mess up and miss those opportunities. There are specific spots on this card you guys got to be capitalizing on. All right, so don't hesitate to reach out to me if you guys want to just know the fights I'm talking about and hit them up heavy. All right, guys. We're going to work our way here to the first fight of the main card. We got Phil Hawes taking on Deron Winn. Deron, the undersized Winn. This guy's constantly undersized in his fights. Only 5'6", and he's always in there battling with these beasts. Was able to pull off a victory against Antonio Arroyo in his last fight, a guy that was way, way bigger than him. But Deron Winn is a talented wrestler. He's very technically sound with his wrestling. He puts in a lot of work over at AKA with all those boys. And if you are not up to par with your wrestling, Deron Winn can take advantage of that. We saw that in the Arroyo fight. But he has a little bit of a problem here because Phil Hawes is a guy, I believe he was a D1 wrestler. And this is a guy that's more than competent with his wrestling. And he's physically on another level than Deron Winn. So good luck getting those takedowns consistently. Deron Winn's going to have to try to go in here and break Hawes down. Maybe try to exploit his cardio. But here's another thing. Phil Hawes, all of a sudden, in his last fight against Daukaus, showed to have an excellent gas tank, which is a little weird because there's been some other fights we've seen from him. The one that comes to mind was that Dana White's Contender Series fight where he got knocked out when he gassed out by the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? What's his name over there? Pull that up for you guys real quick, man. You guys know what I'm talking about, man. A very, very tough fighter who constantly comes back in his fights and knocks guys out. Julian Marquez. That was a very grueling fight, and Phil Hawes gassed out and got finished there. But again, it was a high-paced fight. But Deron Winn's going to have to make this fight an ugly fight like that because I don't see Deron Winn outpointing Hawes. I don't see him going in there out-wrestling him. He needs to make this a grueling wrestling fight. mixing it up with the strikes as well, of course, an overall mixed martial arts fight, but using the wrestling a lot. And he needs to try to gas Haas out and then try to steal this fight. Because if he doesn't implement that game plan, I just don't see how he does anything here. As a matter of fact, I think that he's in trouble regardless. I think that Haas is a bad matchup for him. And, I don't understand why this guy can't make the welterweight division. He's 5'6". I don't know who am I to say. I don't know exactly what goes on with him and his physique, and his weight cut or whatever. But I just don't see why this guy can't make the welterweight division. He's 5'6". He's very stocky, but I don't know. He got a victory in his last fight, but before that, remember now, he got submitted by Gerald Mearshart, lost to Darren Stewart, was just kind of outsized in that fight, and Stewart's a guy that really doesn't even have wrestling like that. So this is a tough fight for him. I like Phil Hawes. Take a look at the live line right now. Phil Hawes, right around that minus 300 range, 3-1 favorite. And it makes sense. And Hawes has nasty, nasty power. He can knock you out. At times, Hawes does have a questionable chin. We've seen him get knocked out a couple times. I think he also got knocked out on The Ultimate Fighter. He was trying to fight to get into the house. So he's had some devastating fights back in the day. And he was a guy that everybody was raving about. Back then, everybody was talking about how promising he was. I think he used to put in work over at Jackson's MMA, and it was all a learning experience for him. And look at him now; he's groomed himself to be where he's at, and he's one of the most dangerous guys walking planet Earth right now. He's one of the most dangerous UFC fighters in the division, and you got to keep an eye on Megatron. He's a bad man, and real quick. And Phil Hawes is putting in work with Sanford MMA and Henry Hooft and all those guys. They say Hard Knocks 365. It doesn't even exist anymore. Or maybe it does, excuse me. I don't know actually if it does or not. I know a lot of those guys all went to Sanford MMA, Hard Knocks 365. I know, familiar with it, right off the highway over here. I think they kind of, from what I heard actually, I think that Hard Knocks 365 now is more, it kind of turned more into a gym for newcomers and guys that are a little bit more green in the sport. I think a lot of the professionals and whatnot all went to Sanford. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember talking to somebody on an interview, and that's what they were explaining to me. Phil Hawes is the real deal, though. Keep an eye on him. Now, this is an interesting fight here. Maria Agapova taking on Sabina Mazo. Two very promising fighters here. Maria, man. Woo. This girl is bad. She's bad. We saw her go in, just take out Hannah Cyphers. We saw her get a lot of nasty finishes, man, if you've been following her over on the Invicta scene. But the Hannah Cyphers fight was really nasty. She just bombarded Hannah, got that finish. Shayna Dobson, she came out with that same energy, but she did kind of break down in that fight, and Dobson made her pay. I think that's going to be a big learning experience for her. I think that she's very talented. Training out of American Top Team too, getting in great work over there. And then you got Sabina Mazo training out of King's MMA. I think this is a very, very cool matchup here. You got two girls training on opposite ends of the country, California and Florida, two of the best fight camps in the world, and you got two young and talented women's fighters. I love this fight here. I really do. Sabina Mazo is very technical with her striking. Of course, when you got Rafael Cordero training you, but even before that, I think she's been an original striker. That's what she started with, and she's very technically sound in the feet. Her ground game is coming together as well. Maria is a little bit more explosive, not so much technical on the feet, but she more so looks to bombard you and just hit you with nasty power shots and overwhelm you. She can work some nasty ground and pound as well. But listen, Maria's only 24 years old. Both these girls are only 24 years old. I expect to see better versions of them every time they're out there. And I think that Maria, in my opinion, I think we're going to see the best Maria coming off that loss. I think that going back to American Top Team and just getting back to the grind and learning from the mistakes, I think that she's going to be really, really dangerous in this fight. And Sabina Mazo coming off a loss as well against Alexis Davis, where she was kind of stifled with the grappling and the craftiness from the veteran there. I'm going to take Maria Agapova. I'm taking the dog here. I like this girl. She's a beast, and I think that the Kazaki girl comes in here and handles business. Boy, oh boy. And yeah, as far as the line goes, let's see here. She's right around that she's up to almost to a plus 140. So even action coming in on Mazzo. So that's all good. If people think that they see something in Mazzo, they can go for that side. I mean, Mazzo's a very talented fighter too. I like Agapova. Not saying it's an official play or whatnot, but I'm gonna take the dog in that spot. And that's a fight that I will not be missing. And there she is here. You got Jillian Robertson. And this is over at ATT Sunrise, which is it's basically just a branch off of American Top Team. Coconut Creek. It's just a little, whatever you want to call it, a brother gym, a sister gym that's down the road, a little bit of a smaller one. But also getting it in over at Sanford MMA too, so not shy to be bouncing around all the top MMA gyms in South Florida. That's a dangerous sign there. And who's this? Pantera 57. This is that Bellator fighter. Oh yeah. We'll be talking about her down the line too. Diana Asaragova. That's right, we saw her fight recently. Alright guys, sorry I'm getting a little distracted here. But oh, even training over at MMA Masters with Colby. She literally is bouncing around every single gym in South Florida, so I like that. I do like that. I'm taking Maria Agapova to win the fight. I think that it's going to be a barn burner, and I think she comes out on top. She edges that fight, but it's going to be an overall MMA fight. You're going to see all types of craziness going down. All right, over to the flyweight division. Tim Elliott taking on Matheus Nicolai. Tim Elliott on a 2-fight win streak. Took out Jordan Espinosa and Ryan Benoit, or Benut, however you want to say it. If you're an old WWF fan like me, I'm going to call him Ryan Benoit. But Tim Elliott, after losing 3 in a row to some solid fighters there, he strings off 2 victories in a row. Matheus on a 3-fight win streak. A guy that left the UFC for a little bit, came back. Not even sure why he left. I guess that whole thing with the flyweight division kind of happened, but Matheus is as talented as it gets. A very dangerous flyweight fighter. Excellent submission artist, excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, excellent striker, beautiful leg kicks, good pop in his hands, just an overall solid fighter. I'm sorry, he reminds me of this guy in the division, but of course his name is slipping my mind right now. Come on, guys. Supposed to be fighting for the belt right now, right? I think, but he's not getting the opportunity for some reason. Sorry, guys. I'll throw it in the comment section if I remember. You guys know who I'm talking about, man. The number one. Here, let me see. I'll pull it up real quick for you guys. Alexandre Pantoja. There you go. The power of the internet, guys. Sorry. But yeah, Matheus' fighting style reminds me a lot of Pantoja's. They're very, very similar fighters, and they're both dangerous. Tim Elliott, you guys know him, man. He's funky. He has wild grappling abilities. Sometimes it plays out good for him. Sometimes he puts himself in harm's way with all that. And Nicolai is a guy that I think could make you pay with that wildness. On the feet, I think Nicolai will be more technically sound. Elliott's funky. Like I said, he gives guys problems, but I don't see any reason why Matheus will have a problem with him. He's been finding his groove as of recently. I think that he's more than up for the test of Elliott. Elliott's a guy that definitely gets in very, very solid training with Krause and all those boys. He can come in there and he can exploit a guy like this at the same time. But overall, I think that Nicolai is the better fighter here. And I'm taking the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to win this one, man. I think that like I said, Elliott puts himself in harm's way. And he's drinking beer in the morning over here. Not a good look. Of course, I'm kidding here, but it's funny. He has the little beer thing on his tee, whatever you want to call that. Those cups that have the names on them. But Elliott looks to be in great shape. I've chatted it up with Elliott a little bit, man. A really funny, cool dude. You see him on the boat over here with Krause. Gina Mazzani, his girl, also a UFC fighter. So they're just all mixed up in the world of mixed martial arts, man. They live and breathe it. But at the end of the day, man, I'm taking Matheus here. Matheus is a nasty fighter, training out of Nova União, one of the best gyms over in Brazil. And as far as the betting line goes, Matthias is a lot of money's came in on him. He's right around that minus 190 now. So action coming in on him. He opened up right around that minus 165 range. So people kind of on the same mindset that I am in this fight here. All right, that's going to take us to the co-main event. If you ever thought that I'd be saying the co-main event of the card is Randy Rude Boy Brown versus Jared Gooden, damn, you should have put a wager on that because the line would have been extremely high. I think the line for me to ever say that would have been like plus 100,000. It's a little strange that these guys are both in a co-main event spot. I know that Gooden had an excellent performance in his last fight. Got that nasty knockout early over Nicholas Stolz, the German fighter. And you know, I like what Gooden's been doing because I don't really think he's the most talented fighter as far as really making a buzz in the UFC for the long term. But he's a guy that he's willing to go in there and entertain. He's willing to put it on the line. And, you know, that says a lot because if you go in there and you get a nice little knockout here and there, or even if you lose a fight, but you bring the energy, you're in there throwing down, the UFC respects that. And that's part of the reason why I'm sure he got this opportunity to fight in a co-main event spot. And I expect him to bring that same energy into this fight. I love the energy he had after he got that knockout, the way he was talking. This guy, he's all pumped up. Seems to be an excellent guy. Seems to be an excellent human, which is always a cool thing as well. Then you got Randy Rude Boy Brown, a very talented fighter who's been around the way now for quite some time. Which is funny to say. You know, Randy Brown, I still remember him fighting guys like Mickey Gall. You know, that was right after Mickey Gall got the victory over CM Punk. I think right around that time frame. Went in there and showed Mickey what was up. But I mean, if you take a look at some of the names that he has under his resume, he has some guys. Brian Camozzi, the brother of Chris Camozzi, Mickey Gall, Brian Barberena, Warley Alves. That was a big win for him there. And to be able to submit a guy in Warley who does have some jiu-jitsu skills, a Brazilian fighter, you know, that was a big win for him. The Alex Oliveira fight, the one-arm rear naked choke, that was an awkward one. And it was good to see him get an awkward finish after he was very awkwardly finished by Nico. But, you know, Randy Brown is very quick. He's very athletic in there. And usually he comes in with a nice reach advantage, and he is, which I had to double check that again too, because I know Gooden has a nice reach for the division as well. Both these guys have very long limbs. But Randy Rude Boy Brown, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach for the welterweight division. He's very rangy. Like I said, we see that he's working on his jiu-jitsu skills as well. He can strike. I like Randy Brown in this spot. Jared Gooden has that one touch knockout power. We saw that. But Gooden does kind of slow down at times. I've seen some fights where he kind of slows down a little bit. And Randy Brown, for the most part, will keep chugging along. And I think that Randy's better anywhere this fight goes. I do, for the most part. I think Randy should be able to handle this. It's a big fight for Randy. And right now we got what? Randy is 31 years old. He's creeping right into the prime of his career. He needs this victory. If he wins this fight, where we're talking about 4 of his last fights are victories, and he can start to get some buzz around him in a co-main event spot, and he could look to get a big fight in the division. So there's a lot rolling for both these guys. You know, Gooden wants to keep that momentum going as well. Let's take a look at the betting line real quick. Randy Brown right around a minus 250. Of course, you know, people are on to what the tape shows, and the tape does show Randy Brown to be the more skilled fighter basically everywhere this fight goes. But expect the speed and the accuracy of Brown to be a little bit sharper than Gooden's, in my opinion. And if it hits the mat, we're going to edge Randy there for sure as well. All right, guys. We are at the main event of the evening. Marina Rodriguez versus Mackenzie Dern. Recording this late, man. I'm recording this late. It's almost 2 a.m. over here. But I had to get this video in. Had a busy day. I do want to start to get these videos out to you guys a little bit earlier, maybe the week prior. We'll see how that goes. But nevertheless, man, I'm always back over here in the lab, grinding it out, cramming tape, and we live and breathe this fight stuff here, man. So just happy that you guys even tune in to watch me and listen to me talk about these fights. Again, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Quick side note real quick too, also before we jump into this fight, if anybody's interested in joining a new sports book, if you're new to betting on MMA, reach out to me. Bovada.lv is an excellent website. Reach out to me. I can send you my refer a friend, and we'll both get a little bonus there, and I'll give you guys some free bets for helping me out with getting that referral. And it's an excellent website. You check them out, Bovada.lv, Bovada.lv. But you got to sign up using my referral code for me to get credit, and I'll give you some free fights, and I'll help you out with any questions you have about the website. And this is a great week to do that, because this is the card here to make some money. I truly believe that. Now we go back to this fight. If you guys notice, man, I've been on a lot of favorites on this fight card. I do feel like that's just the way this fight card's gonna play out. I've had some fight cards where I've picked the entire fight card perfectly, and for the most part, typically they end up usually being mostly favorites. That happens sometimes. I feel like for some reason this might be one of those kind of fight cards. I expect my predictions for each of these fights to have a high percentage of correctness. I really do. I expect a lot of these fights to come through. But now we work our way into this Marina Rodriguez fight versus Mackenzie Dern. Now this fight might not necessarily be one that I'm talking about in regards to that, because I do think that this fight is a closer fight than just one fighter being the favorite, with Dern being the favorite here. Marina Rodriguez is very, very dangerous. One of the nastiest strikers in the division, hands down. She's been training her Muay Thai for a long time. There's not a lot of girls that can really hang with her on the feet. And, but she has a big test in front of her, because Mackenzie Dern has been a little pit bull. She throws nasty power shots in the feet as well. We already know about her grappling and her jiu-jitsu. Forget it. I mean, she's been training jiu-jitsu with her father since she was born. Of course, her father, Megaton Diaz, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, a long time jiu-jitsu guy, jiu-jitsu player. And, I talk about this a lot. When you got these fighters that are born into the world of MMA, I don't want to say the sport, not the sport, the world of mixed martial arts. A lot of those fighters, man, they end up just being a whole different type of breed. We see that with AJ McKee. There's a couple other guys in the game, and you see that more often now as the game has evolved. And those young kids that grow up in the game, they're different. They lived and breathed this since they were born. It's just different. And Mackenzie Dern is that type of fighter. I truly believe that, because you've seen how she's evolved with her striking too. It's not even just her jiu-jitsu. Her striking has looked beautiful. She's learned how to close the distance, and just she drops power shots on you. Her jiu-jitsu is disgusting. And she had the layoff, she had the baby, came right back in, started messing people up. Mackenzie Dern has all the star power in the world. I saw her fight against Amanda Ribas. That was the last loss that she took. Her only loss as a professional. And to be honest, I was there live. Everybody was very disappointed in that fight. Everybody was rooting on Dern. She got styled on in that fight. Man. Amanda Ribas, a very talented fighter, but Amanda styled on her on the feet. And Ribas is also competent on the mat as well. So Dern wasn't really able to exploit her there. And it was a very bad stylistic matchup for her. She went back to the drawing board. She strung off 4 victories in a row. Got the arm bar, and then got the knee bar. And she went to decision with Verna Jandiroba. I think the big X factor in this fight is Marina going to be able to just keep this fight on the feet and be able to use her stand-up? Will Dern be able to get this fight down to the mat? We talked about Amanda Ribas earlier. Well, guess what? Marina Rodriguez knocked Amanda Ribas out. That was a fight that I do believe Ribas played very bad. She should have went back to the takedown. She got a takedown early. She should have continuously went down to that, and she tried to strike with Marina a little bit and got cracked. Marina is very, very dangerous with the striking. We talked about that again. She is nasty. This might have actually been right after that knockout. So, I've been a little bit torn on this fight, to be quite honest with you. I think that Marina could really give Mackenzie Dern some problems on the feet. She has a 2-inch reach advantage. She's 2 inches taller. She's a little bit of the longer, rangier opponent here. If Rodriguez keeps this fight on the feet, if she's able to do that consistently for the fight, I think she wins this fight for sure. I think she's the better striker. I like Dern striking. I like how it's evolved, but it's not going to be enough, in my opinion, to win this fight just strictly on the feet. She's going to have to mix in some different elements in the game, even if it's just clinch. If it's the clinch work, throwing knees, just being feisty, making this a dog fight. I think Mackenzie Dern has more dog in her. If it goes down to the mat, though, she could finish this fight pretty easily. But again, now remember too, I saw Marina Rodriguez get taken down pretty easily at times. I know she's worked on her takedown defense, but I've seen her taken down pretty easily. And again, in that Ribas fight, she was taken down. I'm going to take Mackenzie Dern to win this fight. I think that Mackenzie Dern will have an X factor of getting the fight down to the mat, finishing the fight quickly, or even just using the wrestling there, getting some takedowns. And she's also dangerous in the feet. It's a 5-round war. I don't know if Marina could just keep this fight standing the entire time. Maybe Marina could. Like I said, that's what Ribas was able to do in a 3-round fight. But I'll favor Dern to win the fight here. I think that Dern pulls the fight off, and that'll be, 5 fights in a row, and she's creeping up on 1 million followers. I mean, this girl's no joke right now. Former ADCC and BJJ world champ, wife and mom. I mean, she's got it all going on, and I got her to win the fight here. She's saying, throw 10 units on me and I won't let you down. No, she's not. She's not saying that. Be careful on that one. But I'm very interested to see how these girls look throughout the fight week, and we'll see how they look at the weigh-ins and whatnot. Mackenzie Dern's going to be the pick. And that's going to wrap up my picks for UFC Vegas 39. Now, you guys know I always do a little post breakdown speech. This is what I want to talk about real quick, man. There was a guy named Justin Thornton, I believe. Excuse me. It's kind of blocked out there, man. But I want to... Yeah, it was Justin Thornton. You guys look it up anyway. This guy was a guy that fought over at BKFC. He got knocked out. I saw the fight. I know the guy that he fought. I forgot that guy's name, but the guy with the big black beard. Big white dude with the big black beard. Almost looks like an action character. It's kind of crazy. This fight took place back in August, man. When he got knocked out, he kind of landed on his neck awkwardly or something. He got some type of spinal infection. He was in a coma, and he ended up passing away. And I just want to pay my respects to Justin here. This is a guy that put himself out there. He went to battle, and he ended up paying the ultimate sacrifice of losing his life to perform for us, man. I was sitting on my couch, throwing some drinks back, enjoying my night. Like we all like to do. Not necessarily drink, whatever you do. You like to watch these fights as a fight fan. Well, some of these guys pay the ultimate price at times. And we don't see it that often these days, but Justin lost his life. And God bless the man. And hopefully he's at peace and he's in a better place. And I wanted just to say that for this guy, Justin Thornton, I believe his name is again. But it's a shame. So just pay some respects to the guy, I guess. I don't know, maybe say a prayer for him or whatever. You don't have to do any of that, but you guys get what I'm saying. Let's just appreciate all these guys that go in there and put it all on the line. All right, guys? So that's the message for the end of today's episode. And I will be coming out with another video. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight. I'm very, very excited for that boxing match. And I'll have that out to you guys hopefully by tomorrow. And remember, we have Dana White's Contender Series fights taking place tomorrow night as well. I got that video up. You guys can check that out as well. All right, guys? Sorry I rambled here a little bit. I guess I'm just enjoying hopping on the mic. You guys all enjoy the rest of your night or your rest of your day whenever you're listening to this. All right, guys? Signing out. Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.